Hey everyone, you're watching DeFi Talks with DeFi Dad. Hey, thanks for joining us. I've got a special interview here today with the one and only Stani Kulechov from Aave and Lens and lots of other projects that he lends a helping hand to. So we're going to talk all about really everything you need to know about the Aave ecosystem. So most of us know Aave, of course, for it being a lending and borrowing platform. It has been really, I think, a standout over the last few months as we've watched parts of centralized crypto crumble in the wake of a credit crisis, while DeFi has thrived. And I think that it couldn't be a more timely conversation just to talk about how Stani and the team at Aave are building through this bear market and really thinking about the next wave of mainstream Web3 users. However, we'll also get to talk a bit about Lens protocol. So we're actually live streaming this on Twitter, but after this, I'll be posting it for the playback. I'll be posting it to LensTube. And so I think hopefully many of you will start to learn that what's being built with a decentralized social graph via Lens protocol is just the foundation to us actually building the future of Web3 media. So Stani, on that note, welcome. Thanks for joining me. How you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me here, DeFi Dad. It's been a while since I'm here, but always exciting.
Yeah, so much has changed. I want to say that I think we did an interview in like late 2020, and that was like less than 12 months after you had launched the rebrand of what was originally ETHLend. So I'm always conscious of folks that are like new to DeFi and new to Aave, to Lens protocol. So do you want to briefly tell like your origin story and I guess like what led to Aave, and then we can talk a bit about Go, which is a new decentralized stablecoin that's been proposed through Aave.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Aave team is behind the Aave protocol, which is a DeFi protocol where you supply cryptographic assets, and by supplying them, you're earning interest. And at the same time, you can use those cryptographic assets as a collateral to borrow liquidity. In most cases, it's stable coins that you use to finance another goal, which can be an investment across DeFi or arbitrage opportunity, or might be even financing a real life goal like paying a tuition, mortgage, or car purchase. So that's essentially what the Aave protocol is. It's securing, depending on the valuations of the collateral, from 5 to 15 billion worth of value in the smart contracts, and it's deployed in multiple protocols, and obviously started from the Ethereum main network. Now the Aave team has been building smart contract based systems for the past few years, and our first kind of like iteration was named ETHLend, which was kind of built before DeFi became a thing and an ecosystem, and there was just a couple of interesting projects and decentralized exchanges out there. But since the team is kind of like a full Web3 stack, we've been always curious to solve various aspects of this space that can be actually decentralized and owned by the community, and also looking for ways to empower users by using the blockchain itself. So one of the things we have been building for the past year or so has been the Lens protocol. And Lens protocol is a way of actually getting your ownership into your social media profile and owning those relationships that you have with other peers that you network ongoing basis. So essentially where DeFi solves the idea of bringing you accessibility to yield and financial protocols, and removing the kind of like a middleman and banks out of the relationships, and kind of like changing those dynamics. Lens protocol is essentially bringing you the ownership of your social presence, and ensuring that whatever audience you create online, you have that ownership and the direct publication channel between you and your audience. And that's the kind of like a value that we're creating with the Lens protocol. And I will talk about that more, but essentially what we've been building is infrastructure for the Web3 ecosystem that we know today.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, we'll do some screen sharing here at the end, because I think Lens will catch a lot of people by surprise. It looks and feels just like Web2 social media that we're all used to using, except, really it just requires that you're brave enough to use like a Web3 wallet like MetaMask. So actually going back to Aave then, there's Aave v3 that was more recently launched. I'm curious if there's any highlights you'd like to kind of share there, or reiterate. What was the real focus around Aave v3 before we talk a little bit more about Go?
Yeah, I mean, with there's kind of like always been a focus on what we have been building in various of the versions. I mean, in Aave, the first version of Aave, Aave protocol, we wanted to essentially create a very robust protocol for supplying liquidity and drawing liquidity against your collaterals. And with the version 2, our focus was more of like a cross-chain iteration, so that we knew that there's going to be a future where L2s are coming. There's also Polygon, and there's more users coming to the space, that we actually have block space on the Ethereum mainnet, which is a good thing, and at the same time a scaling challenge for the whole community. But with the version 3, our main ideas were around the risk mitigation and capital efficiency. In terms of the capital efficiency, we added a feature called portals, where certain type of bridges or entities can actually get whitelisted to mint and burn A tokens against a maximum cap set to entity based. And that way they can transact value between networks very, I would say, kind of like very quickly and efficiently. And of course, like another important part was of the idea of capital efficiency was this E mode that we created. So we call it the efficiency mode, in a way where you're able to actually borrow against your collateral almost to the fullest extent, to 97, 98% of the loan to value ratio. So you could imagine you could supply something like 100 DAI and being able to borrow, let's say, 98 USDC. And the idea here is that once you introduce also stable coins into E mode that are not USD dominated, but euros and other currencies, you actually create an interesting way of an interesting on-chain FX market with very high capital efficiency. So that's the capital efficiency part. And the another part, of course, was the idea of mitigating risk. So we added risk caps in terms of when you supply liquidity, the borrowing caps, but also we introduced a so-called isolation mode. So new assets could be listed into the protocol, maybe slightly in a robust manner, but with a limited risk exposure. So essentially, if you want to borrow against one particular asset, you can do it against other assets. And this is kind of like a siloing of the risk within the protocol itself. And the Aave v3 has been quite significant improvement, and probably I would say the best tech that we have ever created so far. It's live on the L2s, so Arbitrum, Optimism, also in Polygon and Avalanche. The idea is now that as the protocol has been more battle tested and it's getting matured, we can upgrade the Ethereum main market from version 2 to version 3, and that's going to be a significant transaction given the value that the V2 market has at the moment. So looking back for a few months now, the V3 has been quite successful, and the community expectations definitely has been fulfilled, and it's nice to see that we're live with it and things are working well.
What about with Ethereum 2.0 coming up, what's known as the merge? How do you think about that as, a founder of a major DeFi protocol? I guess, like, will Aave play any sort of special role, do you think, in that transition? Like, for example, Steth is supported as collateral. So I know I've personally collateralized positions of my own in Aave using Steth. But yeah, how do you think about ETH 2.0 as a DeFi founder?
I mean, it's significant change to the underlying network, and it's definitely something that we have to always be mindful and do sufficient amount of testing itself. So the Aave team has been participating in testing the merge on testnets, and that has been going quite well. And I think it's something that's definitely going to be a significant change into the underlying network that affects the whole kind of like a space and everything that is deployed on Ethereum. But so far it's been quite good, and I think essentially we have to kind of like monitor how things will go with the merge. But it seems to, with all the testing we have done, it seems to go quite well. So I'm very excited about the progress itself with the merge, because I've been waiting personally for this moment for quite long, and for the whole Ethereum ecosystem. So we're moving to a phase where, it's actually like we're like halfway there where Ethereum should be. So it's going to be like a very big moment for every one of us.
Yeah, and in case any of us as users are worried about, how that would impact you as a user of any DeFi protocol on Ethereum, the short answer is it won't. If you went to bed and you woke up and the merge had actually taken place, you shouldn't have to do anything. You don't need to like migrate tokens or start using necessarily like a different network or use different settings in MetaMask. So yeah, we're all really excited for that. It's a milestone that I think we all knew was coming, but it actually feels now like it's come sooner than I expected, despite all the years here that we've been waiting. Let's talk about Go. So what is Go, in case anyone's new to that, and then I guess why is the Aave community creating Go?
Yeah, it's very interesting thing. So Go is a over-collateralized asset. So it's essentially backed by the Aave markets that we have and the collaterals there. So typically when you look into the Aave markets, how it works is that you as a user, you come with your different assets and you're supplying into the protocol, and you're borrowing various assets, mainly stable coins, let's say DAI, USDC, and whatnot. So it's a marketplace between the supply and demand, and the interest rates are fluctuating between the utilization of various those assets. The idea with the Go is to diversify the market itself. So bringing a stablecoin into the Aave ecosystem that is governed by the Aave community. So what happens is that the Aave community mints Go into certain maximum capitalization, and then various facilitators can actually utilize Go. So the first facilitator, and all of these facilitators are approved and decided by the Aave governance, which is the Aave community. And the first facilitator is the main Ethereum market. So the users that are supplying, let's say, Ethereum and various other assets into the Aave markets, they're able to use their borrowing power to borrow the Go as an asset and effectively mint it for their own usage. And the differences between the other markets in Aave is that the Go interest rate is static in the sense that it doesn't fluctuate the same way as the interest rates of the other markets that we have in the Aave protocol. And this is quite interesting because it gives the Aave community a bit more saying on how also kind of like the liquidity is formed in the Aave protocol. So for example, if there is a very high demand for stablecoins and we see liquidity crunch, what the Aave community can do, they can actually increase the debt cap and mint more of Go and equally reduce it when there's less demand. So it brings a bit more power to the community over the markets, but also diversifies for the users what they can actually borrow, and hopefully reduces those capital crunches that we see from time to time. So that's how like the technical aspect of Go works. But what we are trying to vision with Go beyond is that we love to see Go kind of like becoming a, I would say in some ways, money that we're using to solve different kinds of payment challenges that we have today. So essentially thinking like how we could use Go beyond the DeFi ecosystem. So decentralized finance is an amazing ecosystem where we have all these opportunities. We're able to, let's say, mint Go in one place and supply it into another protocol or a pool and basically capture that yield arbitrage opportunity. But our team is thinking even further how we could actually use Go, build a future payment applications that could be deployed on the layer 2, and actually solve real-time payment issues on the internet and also offline. So that is kind of like where our vision stands with Go.
Another aspect of Go that had me excited is, so as a user, there's a chance that I might enjoy like a discounted interest rate. The way that it's proposed right now, given none of this is live, will you see then, I guess, different rates based on the type of collateral you put up, and then potentially, I guess, different discounts depending on whether you hold staked Aave or maybe whether you hold the balancer LP for Aave and ETH. And we don't have to go into too much of this, but just what's the TLDR on some of those benefits?
I mean, the way we usually design contracts is in a way where we try to be very agnostic what could be added later, and start very simple. So, for example, the kind of like a Genesis discount strategy will be essentially using the staked Aave as kind of a way to reduce your interest rate. So if you are backstopping the protocol by supplying assets, supplying Aave into the safety module, you're able to actually mint Go at a discounted rate. This is kind of fascinating because the backstoppers of the protocol become at the same time distributors of Go, so they can mint Go at a lower cost and distribute that across DeFi space and also into the other networks, for example, into the L2 markets Aave markets where Go could be listed as an asset as well. So that's the kind of idea. But down the line, eventually more different discount strategies could be applied. And just to emphasize also, this discount strategy, the Genesis parameters that are set, those are the things that the Aave governance needs to decide upon after obviously careful review and modeling what could be those parameters. And that's the process at the moment. So recently, the Go proposal was green-lighted by the Aave community with a snapshot vote. So the next step is actually having those discussions. What could be those different parameters that could make Go launch successful.
And then I guess lastly, like, why now? We've been through a fairly tumultuous, last 6 months, especially with the collapse of the whole Terra ecosystem. This is not an algorithmic stablecoin. This is for me, it's a very familiar setup, an over-collateralized stablecoin on a decentralized platform using decentralized collateral to back it. But yeah, I guess why now? I imagine it had to have been somewhat of a difficult decision whether or not to pursue this.
Yeah, I mean, there's been always some sort of innovation related to stablecoins in DeFi over the past years. Some of the stablecoin projects has been more smaller. They might be, something that's already existed and ported into another network. But also we've seen that when we started to actually build and design Go, which was during end of last year, we've been actually thinking like what could be a innovation that we can bring into this space, and obviously we as a team, we want to innovate to inspire other developers and builders to build some interesting use cases on the infrastructure that we are building. And we definitely saw kind of like a bigger gap in terms of payments. So we see various stablecoins or stablecoin attempts in decentralized finance, and they're always focusing on the whole space, like how you can actually generate the liquidity, establish the yields, and it's basically capital that is moving from one place in decentralized finance to another. What's missing now is going kind of like a few steps forward and trying to bring those stablecoins that are proven to be successful in their models. And Aave's stablecoin Go is actually based on that model of, for example, what DAI is today, with some improvements that we have in terms of how it's minted and the capital efficiency side. So what we want to actually do is we want to see more innovation on the payment side, and now it's possible because of the layer twos. Going back, let's say 12 months before, I can not expect necessarily that you could actually use something like L2 as a way of settling payments. And going into just some concrete examples today, most of the transactions, like stablecoin popularity is growing, for example, in Argentina, and most of the crypto transactions in Argentina is settled between peers actually sharing their QR codes and Binance addresses. So it happens in database layer, and we could actually get rid of that and move that activity into layer twos and inherit the security out of Ethereum. So there is definitely like a path towards that. And what is missing also is building those applications. And that's the application. That's what we're planning with Go. And obviously on the smart contract infrastructure side, there's improvements in terms of when you supply your assets into the Aave protocol, you're earning on your collaterals while you're minting Go as well, which provides some new improvements, what we've seen today. And of course, more diversity into the Aave market. So the other stablecoins aren't disappearing, of course, and that's very crucial that the whole space is diversely risk managed.
Yeah, Aave has been very aggressive in terms of how you've deployed to other EVM compatible chains, and now, true Ethereum L2s. It feels like Go was, clearly designed from the ground up with this sort of, new multi-chain world, a world where like L2s are going to flourish. I think that like next bull run, probably we see more L2s launching. I'm sure some of them will have, they'll concede on security and maybe decentralization the way we saw with EVM compatible L1s. But that's one of the things here that I'm most excited for about Go is it feels like a stable coin that is, again, meant to be more friendly to distribution amongst those who are borrowers on any one of the Aave supported L2s or L1s.
Yeah, and I think this whole L2 thing, like I think as an idea, it's amazing in terms of like if you use it, depending of course, like in the use case, like one thing is clear that there's more users coming into the Web3 space, and isn't enough block space at the moment. So L2s definitely like help on this aspect, and even the idea of subnets that Avalanche has and something similar that Polygon as well. So like there's definitely now ideas around like how we scaling and organize that block space. And I definitely think that L2s are a way of actually creating a lot of space for transactioning, but still having those good security measures inherited from the layer one. So I'm super excited about that. And maybe even in some cases, some application specific layer twos could be very fun experimentations. And I think what I think kind of like what Vitalik also was pointing towards, like the layer one is where the security is lying, and then the experimentations happen on the layer two. So you have security on layer one and party on the layer two. And I think that's a kind of like an optimal way of thinking of how we innovate in the future.
Yeah, and it means just more excitement for the end user. I think that, you know, we're all excited to see more and more of these consumer-friendly applications come to life on L2s. And actually, that kind of leads then into Lens protocol. So in case anyone is new to Lens, what is it? It's a project that, you know, I've viewed it as Aave has incubated this, right? Like this is like within the Aave ecosystem, but there's a pretty huge bet that you all made here in terms of building this. So what is it, and I guess why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, it's a way of actually owning your social presence. That's the way I want to describe it, because you know today we're using social media applications on a daily basis, and we're creating like our presence. We're making connections. So, for example, you have a follower base in Twitter and also subscriber base in YouTube, and the challenge here is that there isn't actual portability between these platforms, but also you can't actually do a digital exit. So, for example, if you don't like the way of YouTube managing their policy or the way they update their application, which is a good example with the Instagram's case recently, where they changed their feed into resembling and mimicking something like TikTok at the moment. And this is direction where many of these applications are, social media applications in Web2 are going towards. So they kind of like want to apply the now trending and winning model. But that's not the way that everyone actually thinks about social and the way interacting with content. So you can't do that digital exit because you lose your follower base. And if you go to a new application, you need to regrow it. But with Lens protocol, you actually, once you create your social media profile once, which is actually tokenized as an NFT, so you can send it to your cold storage. I get different functions to your day-to-day wallet, and when you make those follower relationships, they're also tokenized as NFTs. So essentially, it's an on-chain social graph where any developer can build the next generation social media application. So, for example, when you uploaded a video to LensTube, it's using the same protocol, or you post in Lenster or Tea Party or Aries or any of these favored like other new applications on the protocol, you have the portability. So you can actually port your followers across the social graph. And I think maybe one important thing I want to mention is that there's a bit of built-in monetization as well. So if you mirror content, you're actually, and someone collects that content. So all the content are collectibles as NFTs. So we kind of want to expand the idea of content being a asset class, the same way as you collect art NFTs or something else. So you as a creator, you can set collect fees. If someone likes your video and wants to endorse it, they can collect that piece of copy for them as immutable NFTs. And if I mirror that content to someone else, and someone collects that, I get also mirroring fees. So it's kind of like monetizing the Twitter's retweet button. Those are just the example built-in monetizations, but because it's a protocol, any developer can build even more functionality and monetization into it.
Yeah, I mean, all of these new applications that have been built with Lens, they look and feel just like, you know, the user experience, you know, that we've enjoyed in Web 2, except for the fact that this is being built on infrastructure that, is adhering to the principles of, you know, a decentralized, more user owner based sort of like network. So, you know, for example, I started recently posting on my LensTube channel, and, you know, it feels just like, you know, if I was posting on something like YouTube, except we're making use of live peer and Airweave in terms of the storage. Is that's what's facilitating that. And then, you know, I've got my followers. If we go back here just a sec, oops. If we go back to the channel, this 939 subscribers, that actually, you know, ports over to Lenster, which I'll stop sharing here and show a different screen. If I hop over to Lenster, here we go. On Lenster, I've got 939 followers. So I don't have to like, re-jumpstart a following on these different platforms. They're basically all different tools, but there's a layer there that is the decentralized social graph, which I'll say, I honestly, as much as you think I would have followed all of that, like, you know, as an idea, as a concept, I really didn't fully get it until I started using Lens in the last few months and hopping between the platforms and realizing, oh yeah, that's right. I already have followers, you know, that are, you know, across Lenster or LensTube or any other applications that get built with Lens protocol.
Yeah, and cool thing about it is that if you actually want to, if you build an application, you can actually even curate. So you can show that I will only show those, you know, followers that are actually following through this particular application. So you have that like curation available. So you can still create like different audiences from the same profile itself. And we made it very flexible. I think when you brought in that it's also LensTube is built with the help of live peer and Aave is a good example, like the composability of on-chain ecosystem, because Lens protocol is very flexible on where do you resolve the data. You want to resolve it to the on-chain, IPFS, Aave, S3, like a cloud, or completely self-host between your friends and not to broadcast anything anywhere. So that just brings the flexibility for creators, what you can actually achieve.
Yeah, and I would just encourage anyone, like, get started by going to lens.xyz, because it is it's really cool to see that, as long as you're willing to, what I just did there, what you can't see in the background is I just, you know, signed a transaction. So I'm not paying any gas on this either. As long as you're, you know, brave enough and adept enough to use a Web3 wallet like MetaMask, as long as you can follow the simple instructions of switching over to the Polygon Matic network, it's really, really easy to use.
Something we're making kind of like a more simple is that now when you're posting, you might sign a transaction over MetaMask, but we have so-called dispatcher running at the moment that is running also a gasless relayer. So we can pay the fees of the users, so they don't need to pay the Polygon fees as well. But in the future, you can also delegate some of the features to the dispatcher, where you don't actually need to sign transactions on MetaMask, and actually it feels like as if you're not interacting with the blockchain, and that's going to be a big game changer, because you actually only need Matic or other assets when you want to collect content. And that's also another exciting moments that we have had in the Lens protocol, is that creators are able to set fees, collect fees within the protocol. So if you create videos or post content, you can set even small fees like one to Matic and see how the community actually comes and collects those. We even had a couple of like a bigger collects, and then totally we have raised over 200,000 US dollars worth of value to the creators directly, which is absolutely amazing. And that's the beauty of when everything you express becomes creator content and collectibles. That's a way to actually monetize, and that's something we're very proud of.
Yeah. If anyone wants to track some of the numbers Stani mentioned, you can go to stats.lens.xyz, and you can see here's what he's referring to in terms of the over 200,000 US dollars earned in terms of revenue. And so that averages out to $4.32 per profile. Stani, is there any tool yet for us as users to look and see what we've earned, or like, I guess, like, how would you actually track or start to take notice of any sort of like revenue you generate as a user?
That's something that should be built definitely within the ecosystem. So I definitely can raise more awareness for that. But I think like the earnings is something that is just starting to pile up at the moment. So I would imagine that some of these front ends, they start to reflect more how people are earning. But the data is there, so you can already generate a Dune dashboard on the revenue and fees. But it's going to be exciting to see actually how the mirror fees plays out, because essentially when you amplify content to your audience and someone collects from your audience, you're getting mirror fees from splitting with the creator, with the creator fees. So I'm super excited about the fact that there's one way of actually creating monetization for curators, because in the history, like for curators, there isn't much of monetization in many of these Web2 social media applications. And now there's like a direct monetization tool, which is quite incredible.
Yeah. So to summarize on that, if we're on, let me just make sure I put up a banner here to remind folks where they can try this. So I'll show lens.xyz. That to me is kind of a home base for seeing all the different applications being built. But one of my favorite like lens powered protocols is Lenster, because it looks and feels a lot like Twitter. And so, oops, let me hop over. So if I'm in this, and actually let's go back to the home. If I was admiring Mark's post here, the few ways that Mark might earn revenue is if I were to mirror that, right? That's it's collecting or mirroring. Can you just remind us once more what's the difference between those?
So collecting is when you actually like this particular content. So you like the image and the post itself. So you have this collect button. So you can actually go and collect, and basically here you're allowing a collect module. After you do that, you can actually, it's kind of like a security measure. Right. But after that, you can collect Mark's post for, I think he said for 1 or 2 Matic. So it's just an example, like it might be like low value content now, but once the ecosystem gets used to collections, it might increase over time. And then when you collect it, what happens is that all the posts are now dynamic NFTs and the follow NFTs. So when you have Mark's follow NFT, it reflects the latest content and the latest post. But when you collect it, a immutable copy is minted to you, depending on what are those parameters that Mark has set. So for example, he might set that maybe only 10 collects are possible, maybe 100, or maybe it's an open edition and within 24 hours, depending how many are collecting. It can be also an auction as well. There's one community member that is doing an auction module. And the whole protocol is modularized. So we see a lot of modules being created that are supporting, for example, you can follow someone if you have 75 FWB tokens and a crypto covenant, then you can follow. And if you follow DeFi Dad, then you can follow me. All this interesting smart contract-based logic. So when you collect, you have the immutable copy. Then, and you can transfer it, you can sell it later. Mirrors is essentially that you like the content, but you want to share with your audience, that you want to share with the people that are in your social network and your social graph. Now, if someone from your network collects that piece of content, you're getting part of the collect fees that the creator is setting. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So would I be right to say is mirroring kind of like retweeting?
Yeah, but essentially you get the value. So in Web2 social, quite often we're with the users, we're kind of like giving all the data, and we're consuming the platforms, and we're making them better and training the algorithms. But we are the product because we're essentially paying for whatever we're buying and whatever is advertised to us. And our goal is to basically bring monetization to the users so they can actually benefit from having their own social graph. So if you have a big audience and you find something fascinating for your audience and you can mirror it and you can earn from it, it's basically monetizing the retweet or share button.
One final question on Lens. If we covered collecting, and I noticed when I was going to collect Mark's post, I think it was like a price of one Matic. Is that set by him? How again does that get set?
So basically the creators can decide pretty much on all of the parameters that they want to set. You can set it to quite typical is free content. So you can most of the content in the platform is free collectible. So if I post something today, most likely will be free content, and anyone can come and mint it. Maybe limited amount of copies, or maybe limited amount of time. But you can also set a fee. So for example, Mark sets small 1-2 Matic fees, and that way generates also creator fees for himself, which is quite amazing, because this means that creators can actually get value out of what they are posting directly to their fans as well.
Very cool. Yeah, these are parts of the settings I definitely hadn't explored, but I'll leave this for like a future interview and session. So Stani, we probably should wrap up here. Anything else in terms of a call to action for those that are interested in Lens? I guess any recommended like next steps? You know, we covered they should check out lens.xyz. It's a great place to like learn about the Lens protocol and some of the applications. But yeah, anything else you'd recommend to get started?
Yeah, I would recommend to look into the various applications being built on top of the Lens protocol. There's also interesting curation applications. T-Party.life is one example where you can use soulbound tokens to amplify your content and get rewarded for interacting with Lens content. But I recommend to read everything that we're doing and following us as well on Lenster, and watch this video afterwards on LensTube, and hopefully collect it as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll be posting this right after this on LensTube, and I'll say I'm personally kind of like living through that transition right now of I want to totally migrate over to LensTube, and I'm hoping others like maybe the Defiant and Bankless and so on will as well. So Stani, thanks so much for your time. So great to like catch up and talk about all things Aave. You know, again, reminder to those, if you're interested to learn more about Go, just go to the governance forum or module on Aave, and you can learn more there. Obviously, Aave itself, if you're totally new to lending and borrowing in DeFi, this is a great place to get started and learn more. And then for those that are newer to Web3 Media, this is this is like the secret of secrets right now. I think this is like DeFi in 2019. So if you really want to get some edge, go to lens.xyz and you can start to learn about that. And if you enjoyed the interview, subscribe at DeFiDad.com, but more importantly, look me up on DeFiDad.lens on LensTube. Stani, anything else before we go?
No, and thanks for having me here, and super excited to share all the progress, and hopefully everyone enjoys what we have built.
Dude, absolutely. I don't know how you work on all that you do. So really admire all that you guys are building, and this is the mindset that will get us through whatever bear market we're living through. Like this is where like real fundamental advancements are made. So anyways, everyone have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye.